Hi, I'm Eric Knorr, Editor-in-Chief of InfoWorld, and with me today is Steve Mills, Senior Vice President of IBM Software Group. We're coming to you today from the IBM Impact Conference 2008 in Las Vegas. And IBM made a number of announcements today, but before we get into that, I'd like to sort of pick up where we left off last year, Steve, because we did an interview a year ago at the Orlando Impact event. And just get a sense from you what's happened in the past year in SOA, sort of from a customer experience perspective, what's happening in the marketplace.
Well, the last year has been a hectic one in terms of the projects that we've engaged with customers on around the world. I think what's been very interesting about this whole SOA concept and idea and set of projects is that it's resonated in countries all over the world. It resonates in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. It's remarkable how you go into these countries and you might think that they want to get started around simple technologies, maybe follow a roadmap towards sophistication that stretches out over many years, and the answer to that is no. They want to start with the latest technology. They want to bypass a lot of the steps that they think that G7-based companies have gone through. And implement some of the more sophisticated business process flow-based systems that we're doing around the world. We don't see any let-up in the interest and the activity, even as the economy in the U.S. has slowed through the second half of last year and now the first quarter of this year. We continue to see a lot of interest in service-oriented architecture, and I think to a large extent it's about streamlining and improving the way a business functions. They perceive that there's some real value, real savings that they can realize through embracing this idea of SOA.
And you characterize, I noticed you characterize it as a business strategy. SOA is a business strategy. Most people would consider it a technology strategy. Why does IBM characterize it as a business strategy?
Well, clearly the acronym, the buzzword SOA, resonates with the techies. They kind of get that. But on the business side, the business people are not so much interested in SOA as they want to engage in a dialogue on how they can do a better job of their model of effective execution. So they have a model for effective order to cash. They're driving straight through processing. They understand that they've got some redundancies in their environment because of history, because of mergers and acquisitions. They're seeking process flow improvement and process efficiency. And everyone's under margin pressure. And if I can do what I need to do to run my business more efficiently, fewer steps, fewer handoffs, no disruption, I'm likely to retrieve some more basis points. If I'm a financial services company, I get better return on assets because I'm getting higher inventory turns and better control of the physical things that go into making my products. And so I want to talk about those things. I don't necessarily want to talk about the technology as much as the business. And then I turn to my technology leaders, my CIO and his or her team, and then, so how are we going to implement this? Do you people understand how to do this? It seems like IBM has a lot of good ideas here. They've got a great insight into what other companies are achieving in terms of their business model. How do we put this together with technology? And frankly, they don't want to talk about SOA as much as they want to talk about the business outcome, then let the techies go deal with SOA.
But it's a long-running strategy, isn't it? I mean, it's SOA is not something you do overnight. With a basket of technology here, put it together. SOA comes out the other end. And a lot of analysts, I guess the analyst groups had to have their slough of despond or whatever they call it. And there's been a lot of talk lately about businesses encountering all sorts of obstacles in SOA implementation, and that's certainly true. You're saying that things are going well in terms of customer adoption in your experience. What are some of the biggest obstacles that people are encountering? To see whether there's any substance to what the analysts are saying.
Well, first of all, the interest level is very high. Now the question is, what projects do you do? And certainly, you look across the market, and we've cataloged over 6,500 projects that we've done since 2004. A year ago, we were talking about 4,500. Now we're talking about 6,500. The activity level continues high. Then the question is this translating into business success for those that are engaging in it? And clearly, you look across the myriad of all projects, you'd say, here are some examples where things didn't go well. Then the question is, well, why? Why didn't they go well? And first of all, you find out that in some cases, they really didn't have a good governance structure. There was no buy-in across the business on the business outcome, the business results. They really didn't deal with the issue of you're going to share. You're going to give up some things to get some things, because invariably it's touching multiple functions within a company.
Right.
And if the units don't want to give some things up to get the benefit, the project begins, it never really quite achieves escape velocity, and then everybody feels bad about we worked at it, but we couldn't get the results that we wanted. And it wasn't because the technology didn't work, it was because the fact that they really didn't deal with the governance issues. In some other cases, they perhaps started at the wrong place. They took on something that was too grand for their own in-house skills and sophistication. Very few of these projects do we find that customers can implement on their own. They're dealing with aspects of horizontal transaction processing. They run into scaling issues. They need tuning and other kinds of support. And it's important to have partners that can back up the technology with know-how.
Is that a skills issue, or is that really also an issue of having sort of a fair broker who's outside of all these stakeholder interests, who can help, create this overarching plan that goes across various company divisions, departments, or whatever?
Well, it's a bit of both. If you're failing on the technology implementation side, it's likely to be a skill issue. Right. You don't have it, or you haven't hired the right people to help you do it. If the project is just having a hard time building any momentum, chances are there are a whole bunch of governance challenges that are tied up in that issue. So look, no tree grows straight to heaven.
Yeah, right.
All these initiatives have their pluses as well as their dark side. In fact, one of the things that we'll be discussing here at this conference is what are the examples of things not going well, and how do you prevent it?
Right, and on the other side of that are the frameworks, right? And you just introduced a new one today. I was kind of surprised that that was the top of the list of announcements, was really the banking framework for SOA. Is this because you're trying to provide, you have to provide a shared vision as much as anything else, and so you're rolling out these blueprints for individual industries. That's the intent behind that, and tell me also a little bit what constitutes a framework.
Okay. Well, first of all, what's getting featured at the conference this week are a number of things. So obviously a lot of focus on scalability. So high performance transaction processing and the requirements that are demanded for those customers that are really climbing that ladder to sophistication. We have a bunch of examples of that, and we're talking about that technology. We'll be talking a lot about business performance management. So you're finally getting to real business analysis. Am I hitting my key performance indicators? Is this infrastructure, new infrastructure that I'm creating, delivering real value measured in business terms?
And that's IBM's term for BPM, is business performance management instead of business process management.
Well, you have performance and process.
Right.
I want process control and flow control and so on, but I really want to go beyond just enabling a process flow. I want to instrument, I want to capture information, I want to drive it back to KPIs.
Right.
So I know that I'm getting the value that I'm looking for. Now, we're going to talk a lot about that. We'll talk about Web 2.0, and there are a lot of things that we're announcing here at the conference. Industry frameworks has been a focus of ours now for quite a few years. It's been my view that the relevancy of middleware integration technology increases when we take a vertical orientation to it. In other words, when I'm talking to an automotive company, they don't want to talk just general integration technology. They want to talk about automotive manufacturing processes, their design processes, their dealer relationship processes, the issues that touch on them. Same thing happens in oil and gas and banking and insurance and telecommunications. So we have built out some 15 integration frameworks. Now, what these things are is they begin as essentially a pattern of integration. They're always grounded on a WebSphere integration architecture. We then attach multiple pieces, usually the first of a kind implementation. It's a little bit rough because you're trying to figure out how do these things fit. We're working with one or more clients to get it right, as it were. The pattern becomes clear. We're always adding unique interfaces that are demanded by that industry. That's a key part of these frameworks, as they map to their specialized EDI functions. In financial services, you deal with certain types of format issues, back-end clearing, those types of things. Healthcare has its interfaces. They're all different. And so we actually we incorporate, build into the framework the interface structures. We add whatever pieces need to be there to make it reasonably whole and complete. We integrate it in the laboratory, and then we launch it now as a generally available framework.
Mm-hmm.
We have 15 of these in the marketplace today. This makes the 16th one that we've done. If you looked at them, you'd say they all look similar.
Mm-hmm.
They're really driving towards more front office related activity than just back office processing. They're really more out at the unit level of what a company would implement. And they're designed to accelerate their path towards service-oriented architecture.
Right.
I mean, the more we do inside of IBM, the less they have to do in their business.
But it's a general sort of blueprint. It's not, here's an array of IBM products and consulting. It's about fitting it into your
It's more than a pattern. It really is integration work that we've done. It's custom fitting. It's pre-integrated to a degree. It's customizable. I mean, most of our customers who are adopting these things are relatively sophisticated companies, so they always want their own derivative view of this. So they don't want it to be hardwired together. So it is componentized. It does deliver a certain quality of service, so we don't allow them to sort of change some of the interior pieces that we know will meet their needs and requirements, but they want to change interfaces, they want to create different interaction patterns, different user scenarios, and we allow for that level of customization. But it's very much about a product deliverable. In most cases, the customers will contract with us for some amount of implementation service and support, but in many cases, the very big customers are self-integrators.